Calling the member for Mackay, members are reminded that this is the member's first speech and it should be listened to with the courtesies reserved for such occasions. And I also make a general reminder of the importance of not anticipating debate of any matters which are on the table of the House. I call the member for Mackay.
I rise to second the motion moved by the member of Thuringowa for the address in reply to the opening speech by Her Excellency. Mr. Acting Speaker, congratulations on your appointment. It is with humility and honour that I stand before you today. This marks the 58th occasion since 1860 that members have gathered to begin a new term of service to those who have elected them to the Queensland Parliament. But this is the first time that a member of the Liberal National Party stands in this House representing the people of Mackay. Yeah. I am truly privileged to be that elected person. I want to thank my opponents in the recent election campaign, particularly Ms. Belinda Hassan, for a fair and respectful contest. I have known Ms. Hassan for many years, and she has represented the people of Mackay on council for several years, and she is passionate about making Mackay a better place for all. And I also wish her all the best for her recovery with her ACL injury. I have made Mackay home since 2003, when my family migrated from the UK to be with my widowed mother-in-law, who at that time was a resident of the Whitsunday electorate. My wife Sue, daughter Alice, son Angus set up home in Mackay after I was posted to the Mackay Police Station in general duties following my police abridged competency education course at Oxley Academy. My family soon started getting involved in community activities in Mackay area while enjoying the beauty and accessibility of the area, from beaches to tropical rainforest to outstanding sporting and cultural and arts facilities. At this point, I want to extend my thanks to the present Mackay Mayor, Greg Williamson, and the Mackay Regional Council, past and present, for their continuing efforts to make Mackay the best region in Queensland to live. You have guessed already from my accent, I'm not Australian through descent. It is probably time to describe my journey to Queensland. I was born in Belfast, Northern Ireland, youngest of four. Our family was known as the Amen Chorus. Alan, Margaret, Elizabeth. I completed the acronym with an N. At the time when I was born, my father was a university lecturer in Queen's University in Belfast. My family, prior to arriving in Northern Ireland, had been living in Freetown, Sierra Leone, West Africa. My father was a university lecturer in Fora Bay College for 9 years and then moved to Northern Ireland just before I was born. At the time I was born, the troubles that engulfed the community of Northern Ireland over the next 30 years had not started, and it was a peaceful and stunning area of the United Kingdom. In the 1960s, Northern Ireland had lots of small farms, livestock, sheep, beef and dairy cattle, and pigs. Crops included oats, barley, potatoes, and hay for winter feed. One of the most famous industrial icons were the Harland and Wolff cranes, Samson and Goliath, in the shipyard where the Titanic was constructed at the early part of the 20th century. My primary school days started in Northern Ireland, but when my father was appointed temporary professor of education at the University of Zambia, I went to school in Lusaka for nearly 3 years. This brief period in Africa had a profound effect on my life. From visiting leprosy missions, game parks, Victoria Falls, this certainly allowed me to broaden my mind and horizons from just the Emerald Isle. When we returned from Zambia to Northern Ireland, it was a very different place. Bombings, bomb scares, roadblocks, riots, sectarian shootings, and general hatred and distrust of others had erupted and became part of everyday life. Northern Ireland was completely divided, with little or no contact with the other side. Thankfully, our parents steered us away from the sectarianism as much as possible and tried to keep us on the level. Holidays were often taken away from the Troubles on the mainland, but politics of the Troubles were never far from anybody's mind. Our parents were Christians, and we attended a small Methodist church. Sundays were Sunday school, Bible class with Crusaders, and that was it. My values have been nurtured from these activities, along with Scripture Union, summer camps, and house parties at Easter. My parents were never too far from helping the less fortunate and lonely. One particular area of concern of my parents was the loneliness of overseas students in the long university holidays away from home countries and families. My parents would regularly pack our combi van with overseas students from all over the world and take them on road trips around Northern Ireland for walks in forest parks, waterfalls, along cliffs, mountain ranges. For me, this meant an introduction to world politics, religion, and geography. We ate many meals shared with our United Nations family at home on Sundays and at Christmas. This just became the norm. My mother started running a casual English language group for partners of the overseas students, many of whom felt isolated in Belfast. The many examples of service that my parents gave all four of us was fundamental to the way that we are today, and I will be ever thankful for their Christian parenting. As I was the youngest, my brother and sister had moved from home well before I left school, and my mother and father started attending Fitzroy Presbyterian Church, which had a focus on cross-denominational connections. This activity was very much against the norm, as most Protestants would not engage dialogue with Catholics and vice versa. This focus was led by the Reverend Ken Newell and the late Father Jerry Reynolds, who were the two of the quiet peacemakers in Northern Ireland. This focus group was an extremely important learning opportunity and an important part of life for me in my later police life. My senior school days were spent at an all-boys grammar school in South Belfast. During my years at school, I started to swim competitively and took a lot of my waking hours from early morning sessions to evening sessions. Backstroke was my best stroke. My best result was winning the Irish Schools 100-metre short course race for my age group when I was 17 years old. Leaving school, I went to technical college for 2 years and studied electronics, but I soon realized electronics was not for me. Having friends who had joined the Royal Ulster Constabulary, I decided to apply and I was accepted into the training centre at Enniskillen in County Fermanagh. Policing in Northern Ireland was nothing normal. Policing a deeply divided community was at best tough and at worst horrendous. Some of the situations I was involved in, I would not wish on anyone. As a member of the security forces, one was not only seen as a legitimate target on duty, one was also a target off duty. Security was continually on one's mind, checking underneath one's car before driving off, varying one's route on regular journeys, and sitting with one's back to the wall in a cafe or restaurant. All became second nature. My seat in Parliament makes me feel very comfortable. With the constant threat of terrorist attacks off-duty, many police took their holidays overseas, or at least on the UK mainland. I started to enjoy snow skiing, so off to the Alps I would go every winter for my holidays. On one of these trips, I met a final year dental student, Sue. Sue and I got married about a year later, and we started our married life in a rural area 15 miles from Belfast. We soon made the decision to move to another police service within the UK, and I was accepted into the Dorset Police Force early in 1990. We set up home in a rural village near the Jurassic Coast. My wife became the village dentist, and I started policing in an urban area around Poole Harbour. I think it was here where I actually learned how to police properly. Gone were the days when I had backup from 10 to 15 police or military. Now it was time to negotiate with a person of interest so one could deal with the situation safely. Dorset is one of the most untouched areas of England, with plenty of good folk living around the charming villages. Farming and small businesses were common. And as our family grew, we got involved in many community groups, church groups. Swimming was still an interest of mine in police and master swimming. So now the connection with Australia and Queensland. Let's take you back. Sue's father, Lindsay Cunningham, was born in Bundaberg and went to school there. Lindsay's family originated in Scotland. Lindsay's grandfather had emigrated to Australia in 1880s and was one of the original directors of the Isis sugar mill. Once Lindsay had finished school, he went to work for Evans Deacon at Kangaroo Point here in Brisbane. Later, he transferred to Shell Oil, which took him to their office in London. This is where he met his Scottish wife, Margaret, who had been working in Venezuela, South America, also for Shell Oil. They married, and Sue was their second child. They lived in Surrey in England, but had a 3-year spell in Japan, returning to Surrey, where both their children finished their schooling and were accepted into universities in England. During Sue's final year at dental college, she happened to book a skiing holiday with the same group traveling in the French Alps where I was, and we fell in love. Sadly, Lindsay, my father-in-law, died suddenly in 1990, leaving Margaret by herself on the Whitsundays. During the 90s, we visited Queensland from the UK for holidays and family visits. We enjoyed the country, the people, the culture, the climate, and then realized Queensland was calling. I applied for a transfer as a retread and was accepted into the Queensland Police Service in 2002. Once I completed my training at Oxley, we moved to Mackay in early 2003. When we moved to Mackay, we were quickly surrounded by wonderful people, some of whom had been part of Mackay forever and others who were like us, who were new to Mackay. All were extremely welcoming and happy to assist with those adjustments that any new resident has in a new country. The first years of policing in Mackay were when I got used to the Queensland legislation, the procedures, the Queensland Police Service and the community of Mackay. Domestic violence was a piece of legislation I relied on, as many incidents I attended were DV related, and I saw firsthand the anguish of victims of domestic violence and the knock-on effect of violence on the children within that relationship. I quickly realized that the domestic violence liaison officer was pivotal to monitoring the police district's work in this area, from supporting victims at court to checking all had been done to refer the broken family to external agencies. I knew this was an area that I could assist the local community. In 2006, a position in crime prevention became available, and I saw an opportunity to work with all victims of crime, including domestic violence, in the crime prevention space. In my new role as officer in charge of the crime prevention, I soon realized that the community of Mackay really appreciated the police getting involved with them. I therefore made it a priority to be involved in schools and community groups as much as possible. One long-term connection with community was the Queensland Police Adopt a Cop program, and I held this position in Mackay Christian College from 2004 until I age retired earlier this year. Amazingly, last Thursday, I welcomed an ex-student of Mackay Christian College along with others into the Mackay Police District as a first-year constable. I again wish Constable Michael Rutland, who was a student at MCC until 2012 and his first-year cohort, all the best in the service, and I encouraged Michael to get involved in the Mackay Christian College Adopt a Cop program. Through crime prevention projects, I got involved with Central Queensland University Conservatorium of Music, applied theatre to educate young people about being safer and preventing crime in multiple environments and different stages of their lives. Choices was one of these projects which assisted young people about to embark on their final year to make better choices. This was led by Professor Judith Brown and other lecturers from the Conservatorium, but performed by students studying in the university. This peer-to-peer crime prevention education has been analysed and has been proved to change people's behaviour in relation to illegal drugs, particularly at schoolies celebrations in Early Beach. The Choices Project enhanced the safety response of the schoolies in Early Beach because many of the school leavers have had a relationship with the police in their school with the Choices performances. Another project that was created by Judith Brown and Miss Hannah Barn, this was called Safety Service. This project was aimed at younger end of primary school, focusing on non-motorised transport safety, protected behaviours and what a bystander could do to support someone being bullied. This project is supported by the Daniel Morgan Foundation and Mackay Regional Council. Both Choices and Safety Circus has been performed to over 50,000 students since their creation in the Mackay area. These two projects allow students to interact with police in their own school while learning very important safety messages appropriate to their age group. Other notable intervention projects that I've had the pleasure of supporting are the You Choose program with Peter and Melissa McGuinness, Matthew Stanley Foundation, Youth Violence Prevention with the late Paul Stanley, Digital Cocaine and Digital Rehab Internet Addiction with Brad Huddleston, Eyes Open, Social Media Training by Trish Munn, Tumble Turns, Domestic Violence Education for Schools and Communities with Chloe McCardle. Chloe is a world record holder for swimming the English Channel 44 times, but has also had to live through DFE. Safer Living with Vicky Blackburn. I want to actually highlight Vicky Blackburn for a moment. Thank you for your support through the years and through my election campaign. and say to her, we still want to see justice for Shandy. Shandy was her daughter who was brutally murdered in February 2013, and we will continue to support her as the DNA laboratory scandal is corrected. Other organizations in the Mackay community called for police information sessions about safer living, drugs education, road safety, Fatal 5, sexual behaviors, consent education, scam awareness. In the crime prevention unit, we tried to make ourselves available to all groups wanting presentations. Some anti-violence projects that I created included Salt-Free Zone, awarded a bronze award in the 2019 Australian Crime Prevention Awards of the Australian Institute of Criminology, and the Anger, Rage, Regret project. Both of these were well received in the community and continue to be used in various groups and various locations. I now leave all these projects and connections to the officer who has been promoted to my role in the Officer in Charge of Crime Prevention, Sergeant Steve Smith. Steve and I have worked alongside each other for 10 years, and he is completely suitable for this demanding position in Mackay. Mackay is tremendously supported by many community organizations. They are the glue that holds our community together. Organizations like Chances Are, Street Chaplains, School Chaplaincy, School P&C, Neighbourhood Watch Queensland, SES Cadets, PCYC, Churches Together, Mackay Musical Comedy Players, Choral Society, QCOM Theatre Group, Conservatorium of Friends, Mackay Hospital Foundation, Shed Happens, RSL, Project Booyah, and Rotary, to name but a few, but also, like all sporting organizations in Mackay, they really do work well together. All these organizations are supported by a massive team of volunteers, and I want to thank each one of them for their time and organization skills that they put into making their organization work. As you can tell by now, that Mackay community means a lot to me. Not only have they supported me through 22 years of policing, they've supported me through an election campaign. It would not surprise you that my focus in this term of government is to support the community in Mackay to help them recover from the youth crime crisis, the health crisis, the cost of living crisis. We need to hold offenders to account and have consequences for their action. We need to support victims of crime and help the homeless and with affordable housing and drive down the cost of living. Early intervention is critical to prevent another generation of young people falling off the rails. The Queensland Police Service motto is displayed on every uniformed officer's sleeve: with honour we serve. I will feel extremely privileged to continue to serve the community of Mackay again, and I would like to adapt the Queensland Police logo's motto for my next season of this term representing the community of Mackay. With honour, I will continue to serve. None of these achievements or service has been by chance. I feel every experience, every opportunity, every moment of learning has been gifted to me, and I want to give God, my Heavenly Father, the glory. As I draw to a close, I would like to quote words of St. Francis Assisi as I launch into my new role as member of Mackay. St. Francis said, "Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words. To God be the glory, great things he has done." Amen.
Thank the member for Mackay.